Welcome to another weekly devotion with Pastor Andrew. That's me. Let me just try and fix this a little bit. So here we are. We are entering into Holy Week. Yes, Holy Week, where we have the Triduum, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday. A lot of our, especially Roman Catholic brothers and sisters, celebrate the Easter Vigil. There are some Lutheran churches and other places that will do some kind of vigil service on Saturday, Holy Saturday. I encourage you, we will not be doing that at Resurrection, but I encourage you, if you'd like to experience one of those services, to go to one of those and experience it. Sometimes they are not very, but they're physically demanding because you walk around quite a bit. I know in seminary we had one and I think we had started in the sanctuary, and when everything was said and done, we had walked almost a mile going to these different places. I think they're trying to sneak in some exercise, but then, of course, everything culminates in Easter, the resurrection. We go through quite a bit this week. We've been traveling a lot in this journey always of the season of Lent. Christ, turns from the mountaintop of his transfiguration and looks to the other mountaintop where he shall die on the cross. But now we have this journey in between, and that is Lent. And Lent is always this time for pondering these things, and I think, as I said before, Lent usually is a difficult time for me because I honestly don't fully grasp what Lent is about. You kind of, I think when we look at the world around us, it's a bit difficult because for those of us that love winter, you kind of get to a part of winter where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm ready for some warmer weather, and so it's kind of this transition of, well, there's still more winter weather, especially up here in the northern part of the U.S., etc. And I guess that's where I've lived a lot of my life. So you kind of have that, so you kind of starts to bring you down because you're like, we're still trudging through this. And then what we've experienced, which really happens also in Michigan, where I grew up, is you might have a couple really cold days, and then you'll have a day that's like 70 degrees, and everyone gets so excited, and then it's cold again. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, by the way, Wednesday is going to be 70, Thursday you're going to have snow. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent, but here we are in Holy Week, and there's a lot that we could study, but one thing that also tends to happen is, these days in between Thursday, Friday, these services are important, but I guarantee you those that are even faithful and come every Sunday, a lot of times do not attend those services on Thursday and Friday. And then again, like a friend of mine, he goes, why would I go to a Good Friday service? There's nothing good about it. Yes, well, I would argue about that. That enters also into some of those other questions of if, in fact, I was just watching a clip online, if God's all powerful, then there shouldn't be bad, and kind of good, but why is it good? I'm not really explaining that well, but anyway. But and I did read a little bit ahead in this devotion, which I've pulled again from this God Pause. I just really like that title. Oh my gosh, I'm rambling on. I really like that title because that's what we need to do, just to take a pause and just try and connect. So anyway, our God Pause talks about what will be the first reading at our Maundy Thursday service from Exodus 12, 1 through 14. Is that right? Yeah. And then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall mark for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you. Tell the whole congregation of Israel that on the 10th of this month they are to take a lamb for each family, a lamb for each household. If a household is too small for a whole lamb, it shall join its closest neighbor in obtaining one. The lamb shall be divided in proportion to the number of people who eat of it. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a year-old male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of this month. Then the whole assembled congregation of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. Right? Passover. This is our connection that we often forget in this time of Easter. We get so excited about Jesus and the resurrection, but we must remember, again, where we came from, what is a part of our faith, right? This is the Old Testament. Okay. I lost my place. Verse 8. They shall eat the lamb that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted over the fire with its head, legs, and inner organs. You shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning you shall burn. Burn your leftovers. This is how you shall eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is the Passover of the Lord. So, a fast meal, loins girded, you're holding your staff in your hand, so I guess you're only eating it with one hand. Yes, it is the Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human beings and animals, and on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments, for I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you live. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague shall destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be a day of remembrance for you. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall observe it as a perpetual ordinance. So what is this? This is that last plague, right, of Egypt. The last plague of Egypt. Here's how the firstborn of God's people, right, and at this time we'll say God's chosen, right, this is how the Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of death, will pass over your house and do this. And then did you catch it? It's not just a one-time thing. It is every, what is it? Does it say every month? Every first month of the year. Yep. Yeah. And if you don't have enough to do it, get your neighbors. It's a neighbor event. Okay. So what's interesting about this, of course, is this the basis of the Passover, where it comes from for our Jewish brothers and sisters. If you've ever participated in somewhat of a Seder meal, this is very similar to what will be included in terms of the food, etc. But here, our devotion, this is what's really interesting and important because it applies to us as well. The Exodus story narrates the struggle between the Lord and Pharaoh concerning to whom the people of Israel would belong. Yes, see, this is what it's all about. You know, the Pharaoh is heart of hearts. We have all of these plagues. The Pharaoh, depending on, your depiction or what's clouded that or what not clouded it, sometimes the Pharaoh seems a little bit lenient and then he doesn't, and we hear a lot. And then God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Why did God do that? That doesn't make sense. But that's a little beside the point. But this is the question. To whom do what would become the Israelites, to whom do they belong? See here, the people of Israel, they haven't gone to Israel yet. Right? They were nomads. And then they came to Egypt. They're not even there yet. So it's always interesting, to kind of, that old saying, kind of putting the cart before the horse, right? Because it's like, well, they're not really people of Israel yet, but they are. But they are people of Israel. See, I'm talking about the land mass, but they are people of Israel because Jacob is also called Israel. I didn't just realize that. I knew that. That's what I was trying to explain. Okay. Yes, to whom they belong. Would they belong to Pharaoh, the false human lord who enslaves and imposes hard labor? In a sense, the god of death? Or would they belong to the Lord, the true divine being who frees and saves? The struggle was long. It was life and death. In the end, death, this is in quotes, is exactly what it took for the Lord to free the people and claim them as their own. At the Passover, the Lord sent the angel of death to claim the firstborn of every family, both human and animal. Death passed over the homes in which the blood of the lamb had been painted on the doorposts and lintels. The result was life, freedom, and a lasting relationship with the Lord. Centuries later, God's own firstborn son, the true Passover lamb, have we heard that before? This is why Jesus is called this, died to secure new life for all. This brings about so much of the symbolism that we have, especially in our sanctuary. What do we have in front usually, which used to be, I guess, decades ago now, but sometimes you can still find it. You have the altar. Where was the altar before? It was against the wall. Now a lot of them are out. But what is that? What do you do on an altar? If we know our Old Testament, what do you do on an altar? You sacrifice, right? This is why the bread and the wine are on there, because Christ is the Lamb, the last and greatest sacrifice. In a sense, we're sacrificing, or this is a representation of that sacrifice of Christ, right? But here is our connection. See this, the final Passover lamb. Passover for us is over because the last sacrifice is made, and the sacrifices do not need to continue for us as Christians. This is another thing that marks us as such. But what, as we approach this Easter season, this Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, Easter season, what does that mean to us? What do we carry over with us? This is the constant question of the church seasons. This is what makes them important. I didn't know about church seasons, maybe because I didn't pay attention, probably, until I was actually in seminary. I'm like, oh, there's church seasons? I didn't know that. Well, I did know that, but I didn't know what they meant. Each one is specific, and this is one of the things that drew me to this part, is these traditions. Something that, excuse me as I drink my coffee, something that can be lost on a lot of us, much more, I think, in later generations, and we're not going to get into that argument of whatever we label ourselves, but, where do we come from and why? What does that mean? Why on Palm Sunday did we have a procession? What does that matter? Is it just a simple remembrance, or did yesterday or this last Sunday, we had here at Resurrection, we had Mark Lozer. He walked in holding the cross. He was our crucifer. Well, what does that mean? That cross, of course, is a symbolism of Christ. Christ on his triumphant entry into Jerusalem. Now, is our sanctuary Jerusalem? Of course not. But these are representations, and we're waving our, I can't find mine. I think I pinned them all up. But, our palms, we shake them, we celebrate, because on Palm Sunday, we celebrate Christ's entry and recognize him as the Messiah, how quickly we are like those who say crucify him when things aren't going our way. Symbolism, all of these things doing what? As my daughter does this, I do this, all connecting. Is this connecting? It's meeting, but then it's this. It's the connections, the altar, the bread, the wine. Why is it there? What does this mean? Why do we have candles? What is a Paschal candle? Where is the Christ candle? What do all of these things mean? It is tradition. It is symbolism. These all mean something to us. And when that happens, then our faith perhaps takes on a bit of a new meaning or a renewed meaning. So a lot jumbled in here, but why do we hear this today? It is the connection. This is the Passover, right? Freedom from the god of death, Pharaoh, to freedom and life. Was it an easy life? No, but that was never promised. Never promised. And it still is not promised. That's why these things happened in the world. As I said in a sermon, I think, Would I want everything to be sugar-free Pixie Sticks all the time? Even if I sit here and proclaim it until I'm hoarse? No, we don't want that, because what good is that for us? What good is that for us? Now, am I saying suffering, I don't want to get into that argument either. Suffering builds character and all that, even though that's actually in there. Instead, it shows us meaning, right? These connections. What does this mean? How can we be there for one another? Furthering the gospel. I think these are a lot of jumbled thoughts. That's what happens when I drink a little bit too much coffee. But the question that it comes down to is, what does this all mean? Yes, we ponder all these things in Lent, and then Easter comes, and we celebrate because we celebrate the risen Lord. But then what? What does that mean? That's the constant question. What does that mean? Okay, so I'm a Christian. I'm not a Christian. Okay, I believe this. This is powerful. I am a Christian. Why? What does that mean? God is love. What does that mean? God is judgment. What does that mean? These are the questions. This is faith. This is faith. Let's see. It's wonderful because I know the person that wrote this devotion. I met them a few times. Yes, what does this mean, though? Those last 4 words of this devotion, or 5 words, actually. Secured new life for all. Centuries later, God's own firstborn son, also known as the true Passover Lamb, died to secure new life, not for some, for all. Christ died for all. Freedom for all. New life for all. What does that mean? What does that mean? This is what we take into this week and forward and build upon. Yes? Oh boy. Okay, I've really rambled on. Let's close in prayer. Lord of life, from death you create life. Send forth your Spirit to renew the face of the earth and grant us new life. In your name, amen. So a lot in there. From the analytics, I see that maybe like 3 people watch this, and even if I were to say, watch this again and see if there's something else that comes out of it, do that. The 3 people that watch this, then hey, 6 people will watch it. But until next week, enjoy your Holy Week. Dive into what it means to you. Join us in worship. Join others in worship. See the risen Christ. Please do not go simply from Palm Sunday to Easter. Dive into that in between and forward. Until next week, God bless.